It's very strange what's happening. She seems to be going through a very difficult experience, more difficult than it would otherwise have been, especially being isolated. And instead of having the right amount of staff because of the times, there was only 5 people who turned up to work today at the care home when there should have been 16, which meant that she didn't have her breakfast until after 10 o'clock. No one came to help her go to the toilet. They're just completely overwhelmed by the situation. Obviously, you would expect that a hospital has to be supported by the government so that temporary workers go in to help them, because it's just not possible. But it means that Mum is having a very hard time. I took today, as Nicola's suggestion, the Zimmer frame up. I wasn't even sure if I would just have to leave it at the front, but actually I was able to walk in very simply. But when I got close to her place, I saw the nurse and the auxiliary nurse that I'd met on the Tuesday just about to go in to give her a wash and help her. She'd had breakfast, you could see the plate just outside, and they were masking up. And I was going to go in. I actually just reached for a mask and to put it on. She said, what are you doing? You can't, you're not supposed to be here. I said, well, I just brought her this. She goes, don't worry, I'll take it in. I said, I've had some concerns. I did ring her and it's not good, and it's testing her. She can't even have visitors. And when I discovered that actually I wasn't going to go in, I know I would have struggled to go in, because she would have been, oh, and that there's nowhere else for her to be. She can't go anywhere. There's no other place to consider. Everything's on lockdown. Everything's closed. She has the virus. No one's going to transport her. No one's going to accept her, especially as she is somewhere where they are looking after people. Immediately when I felt this, I don't know what the feeling was, but I called her myself this morning, and my sister hadn't, and she was in distress. And immediately I said to her, okay, let me speak to Nicola, and because Nicola spoke to the manager yesterday, and Nicola got back on the case, and she's speaking to people, and she's stressed out about it because it's hard to let go. I understand. It's hard to trust that the experience Mum is having is the experience Mum needs to have. She can't let go. She's affected by. She doesn't do isolation well. The alternative is chaos, is mayhem. That when I spoke to them, when I spoke to the auxiliary nurse especially, she reassured me. She goes, we've got her, we're doing the best we can. It's taking longer, especially this morning, because we had to have a meeting to figure out how the 5 of us were going to do 16 people's job. That's why everything was so delayed, and this is only the second day she's been there. It's still an okay place, but the alternative is that she's not there, that she would have to be here, and she couldn't be. Even in normal circumstances, when there would be nurses coming, I don't know if nurses would be coming, but there would need to be 4 of them coming, 2 of them coming 4 times a day. It would be chaos, absolute chaos. In between, she needs to be able to press buttons, and therefore she needs somebody at her beck and call. What she needs is kind of like private, personal care. The home situation is just not good for her especially at this time. But for me, it's like, well, I can't visit, even if I wanted to, and I have wanted to, but I don't have to. I don't even have there's no guilt about not having chosen to walk up because it's within walking distance, because I'm not supposed to visit. I'm supposed to self-isolate. We all are. So I'm living my own life, going out for a walk and making recordings and watching things and just being at peace here. Slowly, my sister already took away some things, some glass when she went home, because she would be taking all this stuff at some point anyway. So she made a start. And she even said, it feels weird because she's not dead yet. And I said, well, no. She's not gone. She's just no longer living here. And yet where she is very hard for her. But if she were here, Nicola would feel like she would have to be here more, and that's very difficult for her, being as she lives in Norfolk. And while it would create, other people, things would be happening, it puts me into a resistive state where I just want to withdraw. I don't want to be a cook and prepare. I've done it. I've had a go at it. I've made food for her. I don't want to do it. It doesn't work. It's very hard for me to maintain any kind of putting it in her hands. Let her decide everything. What do you want? Do you want some of this, or do you want that? Would you like this? Because what's there, the way she thinks and how she sees things, is not the same as it was. It doesn't always make sense, and it makes me feel like I need to step up and make the decisions. But it doesn't work when I do that. It doesn't work for me. And while in this moment as I speak, I can imagine, I can feel the idea of patience, that can be patient. In practice, I lose my patience very quickly with her. I don't seem to have enough tolerance for it. So what's happened is that, to accommodate everything, from my perspective, from Nicola's perspective, and from my mum's, she needed to be in hospital, but she couldn't stay in hospital. She needed to go to somewhere that was more permanent, a residency. And because of the isolation, and because she's the only one, or the first one, to have coronavirus, she doesn't meet any of the other residents. They don't meet her. Her door is closed. She doesn't go out. With the Zimmer frame, she might be able to go out and go and sit in the communal areas and start to know somebody or be known by others. But right now she can't. She's just isolated and alone. And with the deficiency in numbers of staff, and not coming when you call them and not coming when you need them, it must be very difficult. But I can't get too involved. I get involved, and I'm talking to my sister and I'm supporting her because she gets stressed. I understand it's not easy, but she's the one who makes the calls. She's the one who made arrangements. She's the one who organised all this. Where mum is, and the circumstances that keep us away and keep everything isolated, give me a space that makes it much easier, very easy for me to live. And I've talked about it. But I don't like thinking that she is in distress. I want her to be comfortable and to be supported and not to be unclean. And all right, when her breakfast finally came and it maybe wasn't as hot as she might have liked, she still enjoyed it, and she told somebody she enjoyed it. At least maybe somebody asked, did you enjoy that? And mum said, yes, I did. But if they hadn't have asked, she might not have volunteered it, because she might not have actually enjoyed it. And that's the thing, you never know exactly what the truth is. But that's where she lives now. That's where she lives, because that's where you go to have palliative care. And there are many people around her with cancer. It's a place where you go to have palliative care because you're waiting to die. We don't know how long that is or what the deterioration is. She said, "Oh my, I feel a bit stronger. I'm stronger in my leg." Okay, well that means good. You'll be able to get yourself to the toilet perhaps. But when my sister was there putting her in, she couldn't get her pants up and down. You know, she can't do it. She needs help, but she needs somebody who she can say, "So and so, can you help me to the top?" When, like, basically what she was doing with Nicola as she was here. "Nicola, I need to go to the toilet." Nicola would get up and come in and help her go in and help her do what was needed. Okay, there could be a real trained carer do that, but she would have to be a living carer. She would have to be on call 24/7. And the only way she could live here is if she was living in my room, and that changes everything for me. I'm kind of waiting for it to finish so that we can divide up the spoils. I can get something and go. But in a sense, that thing would come in the future anyway, even if I wasn't here. I can get a new computer. I can order myself a new computer. They're not deliverable to the middle of April anyway. What would be best for Mum? That would probably be best. She would be here watching things in this place, having somebody who was on call 24/7. Who could be here 24/7? It would have to be more than one person. That somebody would actually live here, but they would have to go out. They would have to have a life as well. And then what happens in between? The nurses are coming in. Well, the nurses are the ones who do all of that. But the ability for her to be here without in between, in the hours in between, are, I don't know. It needs somebody here. It needs me or my sister. And my sister can't live here, and I live here, but I can't do that. I can't help her do those things. I'm her son, not her carer. Even though I came here to sort of do that, and I've done caring to the degree I'm capable of, and the system said, "We're not paying you for that. We don't actually want you to do that job, so we can't pay you for it. You were out of the country, so we're not accepting you as a valid carer." But actually what that did was kind of reinforce the idea that I wasn't able to do it. I was only able to do certain aspects of it. But now she needs full-time physical care. She's allegedly in the right place to get it. And if the virus wasn't happening, perhaps Nicola would have made a different choice anyway, because she would have had more options. Perhaps even a Jewish home would have been a different. But anyway, this was where she's had to go. This is where she's ended up. And yes, it hasn't been a smooth transition. But the only other option is for her to come back here. And that's very complicated, because it ends something that can't be re-got easily, and all the stuff that's been moved over there has to be moved back, and for what? That she declines and we become overwhelmed and she has to go back into hospital, and it's just, she's there now, so she's got to stay. She's in a lovely room, it's very spacious. She's the only one with this wonderful electric reclining armchair, so the footrests come up and she can press buttons. Her television's in there from this house and it works beautifully. She gets her meals made for her, and eventually nurses come, and when they sort out the deficit of staff, then normal service will be resumed. But I have to let it go a bit. Just as I started this, there was a message from a few hours ago. My sister said, I keep getting told different things. Okay, well, I could. Hello? What do you mean different things? They're telling me this, and then I'm involved. I'm still involved. I'm having to deal with it. I've got to suggest things. I'm coming up with ideas because we're doing this together. But actually, I can't. It is what it is. My sister's way more involved in it than I am. She worries and is concerned and wants things to be perfect for her. Because if they're not, then she can't stop worrying about it. She can't get on with her life. But I can't take that, because I can't take over, even though I'm here and she's there. Because if I take over, I know I can't continue to take over and it won't work. But should I go? Should I just do what I need to do? Take the money I need out of her account to purchase the laptop and then just go? I don't have to wait to purchase it. I can purchase it in the future and just go. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to go. To do all that is a major thing because I have more stuff than I can carry. So I take the car, I put things in the car, I go. I have a kind of shelter, I suppose, by being in the car. It's not like being able to lie down or sleep. It's very uncomfortable, especially if this is a teeny tiny car. But I guess I have shelter from cold and wet. And then I go. The only thing I can think of is Cornwall. And I suppose if I go in a car, I don't have to find somewhere to lay my head. I mean, yes, I do, but I have somewhere to store my stuff. I don't have to physically manhandle it or cull some of the things that I actually would want to keep if I'm going to find some other kind of life somewhere else. I'm going to still need things to support it. And that's too complicated, because doing none of that is immediately not complicated. Just being here, and no one is expecting. Nicola is under no illusion that this is an option, and I wouldn't raise it to put that in her head to say that I'm okay with that as an option, because we should look at it because she's not happy. But a lot of her not happy is just coming out of the situation. It doesn't mean that she would be happier. She might think she would be, and it might seem to be right bringing her back, assuming it was even possible. But very quickly it would turn out not to be the right decision, and it would become just as bad, if not worse, as it was. And Nicola would feel more obligated to be here, which that doesn't work for any of us. So I need to step back now. Nicola's been told Mum she'll be ringing her at 9 o'clock every morning to find out. Well, I suspect she's going to be told that Mum is going to be telling her things in a way that is subtly, because she's already said, I don't want to stay here. And Nicola said, but you have to, for the reasons I've just said. But she's still going to be putting that feeling out so that Nicola won't be able to rest until she makes it better. Because Mum won't accept. She's never able to accept things as they are. She can't let go. She can't accept. And now I can't say I can understand what it's like to feel what it is she's going through. I can't. I have no idea. That you don't know when someone's coming through the door. You don't know what's happening. And she's a control freak. So it's very hard for her to go through this letting go process where instead of it happening in a way she can recognise, she can't switch off. She can't just watch her program because she hasn't had breakfast yet, and something's not right. Instead of just allowing it to be, she can't understand. She can't let go. No one wants to be hungry, of course, but she's no more special. She's no more privileged or entitled than anybody else there. But yet she would want to have special privilege. She would want things. She would want to feel more important than she does. She always has. I don't know. When I was out walking earlier, I got a strong feeling that she was exactly where she needs to be, and she's having the experience that she needs to have, and that's good enough for me. It's so much easier for me. It's so nice for me to be able to live for a bit, however long this is like this, as I want. Come and go as I please, eat what I want, when I want, buy any kind of food that I fancy in the moment, or whatever is needed, put petrol in the car, and take money out of the cash point, take money out of her account and put it into my account so I can purchase the laptop that Mum actually offered to pay for me, that she offered for me to get It would make it easier for me. And yes, I agree. It would be lovely to be able to replace my dying laptop. It's expensive. She said that's fine, but it's still taking something from her. It's still using her to do something. And then I'm saying, but now I don't want anything to do with you. Just your money. That's all I want now. However much is left, however much we make, so that I can have choices, options, choices. But she's not going yet. She just holds on. The experience she has becomes harder for her to deal with, and it's really difficult to accept the unaccepted, to accept the unacceptable. And I've had to do that a number of times in my life. And it is possible to find a way to accept what was previously unacceptable and achieve understanding, realization, peace from it even. So she has to choose to do that. Whereas if she chooses to stay in a state of this isn't right, I want it better, the cheese should be melted when I ask for a jacket potato state of mind, she's going to suffer. And she probably has to. It's not to be saved from suffering. It's too much of a sacrifice. And so that's what stops me from going. It's not I feel I can fill my pockets and then move into the future, whatever that is, and I don't have to look back because it's done. It's not done. I would have to look back. It would just be harder to deal with things if I wasn't here. This is where I need to be. And that's as far as I can go with it. This is where I need to be for now. When it's over, I'm sure it will feel different. And then there'll be things to deal with and get rid of, and it will take time. And I'll be living here while it does that. And at some point, this is sold and all the debts are paid off. And if there's anything left, whatever happens to be left, it gets divided up and we go from there. And I sort of want to be around to do that. I don't want to go anywhere else, although technically I can be anywhere because I trust my sister, and whatever comes to me, she can put into my account. And so I don't have to be here to physically receive it in my hands. I can be somewhere else. The car is not needed by anybody or used by anybody. It is insured until the 11th of April. So I can use it, and I've even suggested, and I could have it done. All I'd have to do is reinsure it at the cheapest possibility. Mum would still pay for it, and I could continue to have it as a car that I use. So it would be very useful for me to get from here to Cornwall without having to deal with the fact that I've got too much stuff that I could physically take on a train. So I can see that is my route out, my route back. I can take, I have her card. I can take money out. I was not needing to do it because I can't actually order the thing for delivery now. And I could still speak to my sister in just the same way regardless of where I am without even having to tell her I'm somewhere else. There's nothing else I need to take in, and if it ever came to that point, can you go in, actually I'm not there, where are you? Cornwall. What? But by then it's already changed. It doesn't matter what happens. I have to let go. And yet I can't really let go. When I heard, there was no way I could ignore it. It's like you can't ignore somebody who's saying I'm struggling. You got to help. So help has happened. Calls have been made, things have been given, but it's not the help. That's the maximum. I have to let her go. She has to let herself go, but somehow she's not. And Nicola, unfortunately, has or will have definitely the full responsibility, just as she did with grandfather. Aunt is also dying, but then she doesn't have her responsibility for that. See, I've come into this family after many, many, many years of having nothing to do with them, and it's very difficult to have anything to do with them. I've barely been able to do anything with anybody except Mum. A little bit with my cousin for a bit, but that sort of changed as well, and has gone back to just as it was before I came back. No contact. Now, I'm not blaming anybody because I'm not making contact. I'm not saying, oh, well, she hasn't made contact with me, that something's wrong. I haven't made contact with her. It just hasn't happened like I used to do it, like she used to do it. It was very supportive at the time. It's not needed now, and so it isn't there. It's interesting. But I still feel like I'm the bad guy. Maybe somebody else, maybe my sister, if the situation was reversed and she lived here, she had come here to look after her, she would probably do the thing she knew she didn't really want to do because it was the right thing for Mum. She'd probably try to have her back here. But she knows she can't deal with her. If there was lots of nurses coming in, assuming lots of nurses are available at this coronavirus time. So all of this is just conjecture. It's worth looking at it. It's worth exploring it to see how the feeling is, how it feels. But I have to be honest. It's time for me to be very honest with what it is I would want, what it is I feel. Now, maybe if I was a different person and I could choose to do that, to give that, to surrender that, perhaps Patty would absolutely have her here. She has the capacity to do what's needed as best as I've come across. But I'm not as good. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a good person like that. And I've done much of compromising what it is I actually feel for what it is I ought to feel or should do, or what would be naturally expected of me. When I'm around people who have those kind of judgments, I struggle with it. Even just when I mentioned that Mum had cancer and but yet to go home meant giving all this up and I couldn't come back. I was still, you got to go. What are you doing? You have to go. But that's a bit too judgmental because they had no idea of what the relationship was with my mum and what would ensue as a result of doing this. They had no idea, but yet still were able to make the judgment. So I don't feel like I'm called to be her caregiver. I am always pulling away, and I need someone else to do that. It requires more than one person, definitely, to deal with her. It's not one person could do. You'd have to have the patience of a saint. Even Nicola, and she's very patient and she's very good. She's overwhelmed, and only a proper caregiver, a team of caregivers can give her care. I believe that to be true. But I'm not able to, even though I had a good day today. I went out, I walked, I sat, I felt, I breathe out. I could feel the stress, and my sister doesn't deal with it well either. But fortunately she's far enough away to only have to do things on the phone. But she would actually prefer to see the manager face to face. She's quite good at dealing with people like this. She's had a lot of experience and practice, so she's perfect to at least ask the right questions. Yes. And I can't ask the right questions exactly because I don't care like she does. I'm not connected to Mum like she is. it matters to her more than it matters to me. I want her to be comfortable. I don't want her to suffer any more than she has to. And life is creating the experience she's having irrespective of what we do. So that's why it feels like, that's why it felt like it's the right thing for her to go through. And even if I was to suddenly get a change of heart, think I've got to rescue her, look, no, I can't have her there, it's not right, then I'm saying how much I feel about my mum, and yet the moment I go near her room, I don't want to go in anyway. When the nurse said to me, don't come in, please don't come in, just let us do it, we're isolating, quarantining her. I didn't push it. I was perfectly fine with that because they're about to help her. They didn't know I was there. I followed them down. I just happened to come just at that moment as they were. They walked to the end of her, to outside her door, and were masking up and putting on things. I just reached for a mask and I'm putting it on, intending to go in. Here's the thing. And if I had been inside, then I would be hearing all that she's got to say. Nicola's not there now, and very quickly I'm going to want to leave, and I got to go. And she would have. I was able to do that the other day. I didn't say goodbye to Mum in any way. I just said, Nicola, I've got to go. And I just went outside and waited for her. I said, Nicola, I'm going to walk home. She said, no, wait for me. I said, well, come then. It took her 20 minutes or something before, maybe even longer, half an hour before she actually left. I had to put my head in many times. Mum had already turned the television on and it was loud and she was already going into escape mode. Or maybe not escape mode, but coping mode. Yeah, coping mode. Unfortunately, and my sister was willing to be here a lot longer. She was signed off. She could keep being signed off for quite a while to support Mum. The fact that she goes through the cycles of constipation, diarrhea, the drugs cause constipation, and so she has to be given drugs to help her diarrhea, to help her loosen, and then it's and she can't control it, so it's horrible. And my sister couldn't handle it. Everything needs cleaning all the time and changing, so she needs professional care. But otherwise, she had her wonderful own personal servant. Nicola, can you do me? Nicola, can you get me? I need to go. Can you take the jelly off the pineapple? No, I don't really like that. She starts to become lady of the manor. And she can't have that from her children because of the relationship that we have with her or have had with her. She can't have it. She would love to be the lady of the manor and just, be picked up and washed and placed gently back on the sofa with something to eat fed gently into her, and she can have something approaching that in the care home if she's lucky. If they're attentive to her when the virus thing, and they can open her door and she can feel like she's part of the bigger picture rather than this isolation thing. So she's being tested right up to the end. She's still here. She's holding on. She's not letting go. She's not finishing. So she's going to be tested more. That's what it seems. To be continued.